Often, people who are planning on bringing chickens into their backyards, and even prospect homesteaders, ask us, how many chickens should we get? My answer is always another question. What do you want the chickens to do, or what do you want the chickens for? Today, I'd like to explore that question by showing what we do with chickens here. Before I reveal the size of our flock, let me say that we keep chickens here for 5 main purposes. 1. We keep chickens for eggs. 2. We keep chickens for meat. 3. We breed chickens. 4. We keep chickens for work. And 5. We keep chickens for their manure. Our current flock, what we like to refer to as our winter flock, consists of about 65 chickens. Now, for a family of 6, 65 chickens is a lot of eggs, even in the winter time when egg production declines significantly. Fortunately, we have a market for our eggs, and the extra income helps us cover the cost of grain, which we mostly relied on in the winter months. The second purpose of our raising chickens is for meat. And to that end, we raise 2 types of chickens. The first type is the so-called broilers, which we bring in as day-old chicks, and then we raise them anywhere between 8 to 12 weeks. At which point we process them here at the farm and then stock them up in the freezer. We also have a market for these chickens, and that helps cover the expenses and the cost of feed and raising them. The second type of chickens that we raise for meat are the dual-purpose black house that we breed here at the homestead. Typically, we raise these animals until they're about 5 months, at which point we process mostly the males, and some of the females that are not showing signs that are going to be good mothers or good layers or otherwise are not making the cut, so to speak. So those chickens, when we process, they're fantastic meat birds in that, for one thing, I think they're tastier because they have a longer time to develop muscle and fat. I think it's a right balance of the two, and so they're great tasting chickens. Now they tend to be a little tougher, the meat, but roasted slowly or in the crock pot, they're incredibly tasty, and it's one of my favorite things. Because we generally process quite a bit of them. We also market those and have a pretty good customer reactions from those. The third purpose we're raising chickens here at the farm is for breeding. And to that end, we're aiming at producing the perfect homestead bird. By that I mean chickens who are good layers, chickens who are good for meat production, and chickens who have all the natural instincts that we associate with chickens. That is, the motherhood instinct is a trait that I'm very interested in. They're tame, they're docile, and they're workers, because obviously we like for the chickens to do things for us too. And so with that, we go through a process of selectively breeding these animals, which we do early in the spring. We will choose our best 4 or 5 hens. That's another reason why we need to have a large pool, so to speak, of chickens we can draw from. And so we'll select 3 or 4 or 5 of the best hens, that is, the ones who are the larger animals, who lay most often, who are also tame, and who show some broodiness instincts, that is, that motherly instinct. Our goal is for the chickens to be self-sustained, so we don't have to rely on incubators or so. It's incredibly easy for a mother hen with brooding instinct to hatch the eggs, whereas when we do that artificially using incubators, you know, we have to be controlling temperature, humidity, and all this for 21 days, and then taking special care of these little baby chicks. Like, they have to be in a controlled environment at certain temperatures. So I mean, this is time, and it's energy, and it's effort, things that the chickens are willing to do. They're great at, they're better than any incubator, and they'll protect these little babies. So that is something that we're very interested in, and we're breeding our hens for. How do we go about selecting for broodiness? Well, you know, I'm purposely breeding hens that have gone broody and who have been successful in the past in hatching eggs and raising the little babies, at least for a few weeks. So those ones are kind of automatically making the cut, or at least one of them. And then I'll go with some of the other traits, like, you know, hens are regularly laying every day, and of course we monitor all those things. But that's sort of how we go about these things. So in a few weeks, that'll be the subject of another video. I'll be doing the cutting process, if you will, selecting those hens that are going to be set aside with our best rooster. And then they'll produce the offspring for next season. Now, in every one of these purposes, I'm always looking in terms of some kind of profitability. And so one of the things that we have been doing too is we hatch, of course, more chickens than we need, but then we get to sell them as day old chicks, you know, because they're being selectively bred, and there's a story behind each mother, and you know, people like to hear where those chickens come from. So I can actually sell them at a better prices than what you will get from a mailed-in catalog, or even from the local farm stores or so. So it's a very rewarding thing to do, to, you know, to have people come in and they get to choose their own chicks or so. It's nice talking with people about that. So the next thing chickens do for us is work, free labor, doing things that they absolutely love. I'll break it down for you. Our chickens will work in the prep work for our gardens. They'll do the clearing, they'll do the basic tilling, and they will fertilize. And they absolutely love doing this. This is what chickens are all about. This is what the chickenness of the chicken is, you know, to go out and scratch and look for bugs and get them out, and in the process they're preparing the soil, because they're also pooping and putting that input that is going to help out the soil, you know. So now this is something that we can do in a controlled fashion, and therefore we can benefit greatly from their work. Another way we put in the chickens to work is by letting them work on the compost pile. To that end, what I do is bring the semi-finished compost into the chicken, the area where I'm keeping the chickens. So wherever they're working, I'll bring in semi-finished compost, and then we'll let them come and scratch and pick and spread it for us. And that's something that they're so happy to do, and they're so willing to do, and it's helping us tremendously. Finally, as we grow quite a bit of food here, and now we're doing this commercially, so to speak, running a CSA, we avoid using chemical fertilizers. And so obviously you have to feed the soil somehow. And so to that end, yes, we relied on compost that is being worked out by the chickens, but we also relied on compost manure, you know. So in other words, it's fascinating, because what comes out of the tail end of the chicken is a fantastic source of nutrients, particularly nitrogen, that is so useful in growing healthy crops. And so we keep chickens not just for eggs, not just for meat, not just for work, not just for their manure, but for a combination of all these things. And I hope you can benefit from it. Please leave your questions and comments below, and I will be happy to answer it. And any tips you can have will be greatly appreciated. And I'll have my helper come in here and say the magic word here. If you're liking what you're seeing and you have not done so, go ahead and click the subscribe button. Say it loud. Subscribe. Go ahead and click subscribe. Go ahead and subscribe. Why are you so quiet, little girl?